How did ASU kind of help you in your experiences with the wrestling program, help set you up for what you did post ASU and winning heavyweight titles and things like that?
You know, high school is a different, high school wrestling, football, it's a different level going to a D1 program, you know, and I came in and we had, you know, guys like Steve Blackford, Eric Larkin, who won the Hodge, which is like the Heisman, you know, for wrestling, you know, and so I had those guys to look up to and model myself after. And yeah, those guys had fun, but wrestling season, the hardest training people I've ever been around to this day, you know, so they were putting in the work, and that allowed me to kind of follow in their footsteps. I redshirted 1 year, you know, I watched, I observed, you know, I was in there wrestling every day, trying to get better. And that mentality that I brought, you know, from my early days in high school was just reinforced and made stronger in college. And I didn't care what I did after, that was going to help me. Whether I was thinking about going to law school, that was going to help me there. I was, you know, if I was in business or whatever, you know, I just happened to get out of college and I had felt something was missing. There's a fire I still had to compete, and where could I get that? I didn't know. And so I'm like, I'm going to try to just keep in shape and learn some kickboxing and boxing. You know, I have the wrestling down, maybe some jiu-jitsu. And I went into mixed martial arts, you know, gym, and I immediately was like, okay, I got to try one, right? Try my first fight, and then, you know, a guy that's probably 20 pounds lighter than me, you know, I was like 0-1. I have a wrestling background. I just ran through him quickly, and I just thought, man, that was a lot of fun. Let's try another. And then 43 fights later, here I am. 2024, I would say, yeah, March, I got a text from Benny Safdie, but it said, hey, Ryan, this is Benny. I have a question about this MMA film. That meant a lot, could have meant a lot of things to me, right? I didn't know what somebody wanted to come in and train filming. I kind of blew him off for like 3 weeks, and finally, we did a phone call and he FaceTimed me. He's like, yo, you know, hey, I'm Benny Safdie. You know, I did Uncut Gems. I'm thinking about this movie, The Smash Machine, and we're thinking about you. And so it kind of just went from there.
What was the process like for you? Did you do acting lessons? Are you working with a coach, or did it kind of come naturally? What was the process like?
So when he texted me like, hey, I'll see you in Vancouver, you got the part, congrats. I go, Benny, do I need to get an acting coach or anything like that? And he goes, absolutely not. He goes, just be the way you were in that Zoom call. He's like, I'll help you, I'm your acting coach, but you're good. So I showed up not knowing, I've never been on a movie set or anything. I showed up not knowing anything. I showed up 2 weeks early for stunt training for the fights. And then after that 2 weeks, I was sitting in a room, everything's 90s, you know, it's 1999, in Coleman's house, character I was playing with my family, 4-year-old sitting on my lap. And it was go time. That was our first scene. It was chaos.
Big stars in this movie. What was it like the first day on set with The Rock? That's got to be a pretty
cool
experience.
Were great. You know, we had, you know, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, we had Emily Blunt, and then we have an assortment of other people in mixed martial arts, like Bas Rutten and all them. And yeah, for a first, you know, first movie role, it was a big role too. You know, if you followed or watched the documentary. And then let alone to do it with two of the biggest movie stars in the world with The Rock and Emily Blunt. And they were absolutely amazing. You know, we're just like you'd think, we're sitting in these director's chairs, right? And I get a tap on the shoulder and I look around and my brain is trying to process what I'm looking at, right? It kind of looks like The Rock, but it looks like Mark Kerr. It was, you know, Dwayne Johnson in his whole getup that took 5 hours every day as Mark Kerr. You know, and he was amazing to me, and Emily is so bubbly and fun, and we just meshed right away.
What's something about the process of filming a movie that you were kind of surprised by, or that you were kind of maybe caught off guard?
You know, you always hear like the hurry up and wait, right? And on set, and I knew that going in, but I wasn't prepared for how much waiting. You know, I'd get there at 8 a.m. and I had 2 hours of makeup, tattoo cover, maybe I had a black eye in a lot of the movie, you know, from a previous fight in the movie. And then you go to your trailer and they're maybe shooting a different scene, and you know, get there at 8 a.m. We might not start filming until 8 p.m. And so I'm ready to like film at 11 a.m. Like I had my coffee, I'm like ready to peak then, and then you never know. And so it's almost like being in a swing bout in the UFC, right? You don't know if you're fighting first, in the middle, or last.
Did you kind of get the bug now? Is this something you want to pursue some more in the future?
I was sitting there with Emily Blunt. She was asking me how I liked it, how it compared to fighting, and I told her that I really did like it because it's scary. You have different emotions, you know, walking onto a set, walking into a cage. And I realized that I like those emotions, whether you don't like them in the moment, right? Nobody likes to feel nervous, but when it's all said and done, when you go in there, you get your hand raised in the cage, or you go in on a set and do really well in your scene and it's over, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulders, you feel good. Yeah, looking back, you know, the stuff I've done as far as like in the MMA world and been a part of because of that and whatnot, I'll look back and when I'm standing on a set with Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt, definitely pinch myself. It's surreal, you know. You're like, how did I get here? Like, you know, just 2 months ago, you know, I was winding down my MMA career and I'm thinking like, what's next? You know, I need something. And that popped up right then. But I was sitting on the movie set and I'm looking around, I'm like, how did I get here, you know? But it's definitely welcomed and I had a lot of fun, and having the good people around you that I do is, you know, definitely the plus.